She was pregnant and pushed off the cliff by her billionaire CEO ex, or so she thought. She pretended to be dead. What happened next shocked everyone. The ocean didn't roar that night. It whispered. It hissed through her hair and filled her mouth like it was trying to pull words from her lungs. Marin Ren's fingers clutched at the moss-slick edge, the whole world beneath her a spinning blur of black water and silver spray. "Elias, please," she said. Her voice cracked. The wind took most of it. "I didn't tell anyone." He stood 3 steps away, his silhouette rigid against the storm-lit sky. Elias Kane, the man every magazine called the future of the planet. Billionaire environmentalist. Genius. Savior. The man who once whispered she was his reason to breathe. Now, he wouldn't even look at her. Lightning sliced the horizon, white and merciless. For 1 second, she saw his face, wet with rain, jaw trembling, then gone again. "You lied to me," he said, low and raw. "You stole everything." Nadia's fingers slipped on the slick stone. "Elias, listen." He stepped forward. Too close. And the earth gave way. A scream. Her scream. Then nothing but water. Cold. Endless. Her last thought before darkness swallowed her was not about dying. It was about the flutter she felt beneath her ribs, the heartbeat that wasn't hers. She wakes to the sound of waves. Not crashing, lapping. Gentle, rhythmic, like breathing. Salt burns her throat. Her head throbs. She's lying on wet sand, her hair tangled in seaweed. It's dawn. When she moves, pain shreds through her body, ribs, leg, shoulder. She tastes blood. Every instinct says she shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be alive. A figure kneels beside her, weathered hands, a fishing hat, the smell of diesel and salt. "You're lucky the tide went out," the fisherman mutters in accented English. "Another hour, you'd be gone." "Where?" Her voice is a rasp. "Where am I?" "Makiri Island," he says. "Private waters. You shouldn't be here." Makiri. The island Elias owned. The same place he'd built his empire of glass villas and marine labs. The same cliffs she fell from. Nadia's mind spirals. The argument, the rain, Elias's face in lightning. His voice saying she lied. Then the drop. The pain. She shouldn't be here. She can't be here. The fisherman helps her sit up. "You need doctor." She shakes her head. "No hospitals." He hesitates, studying her, the fear in her eyes, the bruises already forming on her throat. He nods slowly. "Okay. My wife, she help. Old nurse." Hours later, in a hut that smells of coconut oil and iodine, Nadia lies on a straw bed while an older woman stitches the gash at her shoulder. The radio hums faintly. A voice cuts through, sharp, professional, English. "Breaking. Police confirm the body of marine biologist Marin Ren was recovered off the cliffs of Makiri Island early this morning. Authorities suspect foul play involving her fiancé, billionaire environmentalist Elias Kane." Nadia freezes. Her fingers go cold. The voice continues. "Elias Kane has not been seen since midnight. His yacht remains anchored near the cliffs." The old woman looks at her, puzzled. "That's you." Nadia shakes her head. Her voice trembles. "No. My name's," she stops. "Who is she now?" Her gaze drifts to the mirror propped on the wall. Her face is pale, unrecognizable, skin scraped, hair matted, lips split. She whispers the first name that comes to mind. "Marin." The old woman nods. "Okay, Miss Marin. You rest now." But Nadia doesn't rest. Because in the space between every heartbeat, one thought repeats itself, louder than the ocean outside. "If they think I'm dead, I can never go back." Her hand moves to her stomach. The flutter is still there. Alive. "Would you like me to proceed to Act 2, 5 years of silence, her new identity, new life, and the moment her secret world begins to unravel?" Excellent. We'll continue seamlessly into Act 2, maintaining the same cinematic tension, emotional realism, and sensory tone. You'll notice it picks up in the exact moment Act 1 left off. Nadia, now Marin, still lying in that hut, realizing she must vanish for good. The ceiling fan spun lazily above her, its blades making a sound like slow breathing. 5 years had passed, But sometimes, in the hush between tides, it still felt like that night hadn't ended. Now she was Dr. Marin Ren, marine biology consultant, part-time science teacher at the community school in Port Coral, a quiet coastal town 2 islands and 1 lifetime away from Makiri. Her students called her Ms. M. They liked her because she never raised her voice. The parents liked her because she never asked questions. No one knew she was once Nadia Ren, the woman the world mourned for exactly 7 news cycles before forgetting. No one except Lydia, the fisherman's wife who had pulled her from the water, and one doctor from the mainland who handled her medical records under another name. And then there was Arya, her daughter. It was a bright Saturday morning, the kind that smelled like salt and mango skins. Arya was 6 now, sharp-eyed, all elbows and curls, with a smile that came and went like sunlight through clouds. "Mom!" she shouted from the porch. "There's a turtle on the steps again." Marin wiped her hands and went to look. A green turtle no bigger than her palm blinked up at them, dragging itself across the wooden plank. Arya crouched down beside it, whispering, "He always finds his way back." Marin smiled faintly. Maybe he remembers where he was loved. The words hurt even as she said them. She could feel the ghost of that cliff under her feet every time she let herself be happy. Later that day, while she graded papers at her desk, the television hummed quietly in the background. A travel segment, some lifestyle channel highlighting eco-innovations in the Pacific. And then she heard his voice. "We have a responsibility to rebuild what we destroy," Elias Kane said, standing before a new glass facility on Makiri. "The ocean gives us everything. We have to give back." Her pen dropped. She hadn't heard that voice in 5 years. The camera lingered on him, still impossibly composed, in his linen suit and rolled sleeves. A bit more silver in his hair, maybe. But his eyes, those sharp, unreadable eyes, looked exactly the same. The screen shifted to footage of him rescuing a child from the surf, pulling her up in his arms as waves crashed behind them. Reporters called it heroic. Marin's lungs froze when the child turned toward the camera. Wet hair, pale skin, sea glass necklace identical to the one around Arya's throat. It wasn't Arya, she told herself. It couldn't be. But the resemblance was enough to twist her stomach into knots. She switched off the TV. For the rest of the day, the air seemed thicker, slower. Even Arya noticed. "You're sad," she said quietly that evening, as Marin tucked her into bed. "You looked at the ocean like it did something wrong." Marin kissed her forehead. "Just tired, baby." But long after Arya fell asleep, Marin sat at the window, watching the sea blur into darkness. The news broadcast replayed in her head, Elias's face, his voice, the child in his arms. And then, unbidden, another voice. The radio from that hut 5 years ago. The body of marine biologist Nadia Ren was recovered. Her reflection in the glass looked like a stranger's. If Elias was back on Makiri, and building again, that meant the world had forgiven him. Forgotten her. And maybe, just maybe, he believed she had died because of him. The next morning, she found a letter wedged beneath her door. No address. No postage. Just her name, Dr. Marin Ren. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside, one line written in neat, deliberate handwriting. "The sea never forgets, Nadia." She read the sentence again. The paper trembled slightly in her hands, not from the breeze slipping through the window, but from the pulse running wild beneath her skin. "The sea never forgets, Nadia." Nobody in Port Coral knew that name. She'd buried it deeper than the tide could reach. Marin checked the door again. No sign of a visitor. The lock intact, no scratches. No prints in the sand outside except her own and Arya's. She folded the note carefully, as if it might cut her, and slipped it into the pocket of her denim shorts. At the school later that morning, her mind wouldn't stay still. While she taught about coral bleaching, her gaze kept darting to the window, to the glint of the bay beyond the trees. Every movement in the periphery, the shimmer of a camera lens, a man standing too long near the gate, set her heart thrumming. During lunch break, she called Lydia. "Did anyone come by the house this week?" Marin asked. Lydia's voice crackled through the old phone line. "No one." "Why?" "There was a letter." A pause. "What kind of letter?" "The kind that knows my name." A sharp inhale. "Nadia." "Don't," Marin said quickly. "Not that name." Lydia sighed, weary. You think he found you? I don't know. You always knew this day might come. Marin stared out at the water. The kids were laughing on the field, their voices sharp and bright against the wind. I hoped it wouldn't. That evening, the rain returned, the first heavy storm in weeks. Arya was asleep, curled under her blanket with her turtle plushie. Marin sat at the kitchen table, the note unfolded in front of her beside a half-empty cup of tea gone cold. Thunder rolled somewhere offshore. She flipped the note over. Nothing on the back. But the paper, thick, textured, felt expensive. Not local. Then she noticed something faintly embossed in the corner, McKeary Foundation. Her stomach turned. She stood abruptly, knocking the chair back. It hit the tile with a hollow sound. Lightning flashed outside, and in that split second she saw him. A man, standing at the edge of the property, half-shadowed by rain and palm fronds. Watching the house. Her body reacted before thought. She grabbed the flashlight, bolted the door, checked the windows, moved through the rooms with quiet, deliberate steps. When she reached the back porch again, he was gone. Just the hiss of rain on leaves, the sea beyond the dunes. The next morning, she tried to tell herself it had been a trick of light, of nerves, of memory, because memory could lie. She knew that better than anyone. But when she walked out to her car, she stopped cold. Someone had pressed a seashell against her windshield. Perfect white, spiral cut, placed carefully in the exact center. She lifted it with trembling fingers. Inside, coiled in its hollow, was a strip of paper rolled tight. She uncurled it. I didn't push you. Her breath caught. The handwriting, clean, angular, unmistakable. Elias Kane. She stood in the doorway long after dawn, the seashell still in her palm. Rainwater beaded on the windshield, dripping down the spot where the shell had sat as though trying to erase it. I didn't push you. She wanted to burn the note. She wanted to throw it into the surf and watch the tide swallow it whole. Instead, she slipped it into a drawer under her kitchen sink, between a stack of unpaid utility bills and Aria's watercolor paintings of fish. It was safer not to decide what to do with it yet. At the small cafe in town, she tried to pretend things were normal. The smell of coffee, the clink of spoons, the chatter of fishermen watching the storm push across the horizon. She sat alone in her corner, laptop open, a stack of essays to grade. But her eyes kept drifting to the television over the counter. McKeary Island again. Elias again. The headline, Elias Kane returns to rebuild his legacy. He was giving a press conference, the screen showing him framed by coral tanks and glass walls. He spoke of restoration projects, climate partnerships, corporate transparency. His voice was calm, polished, exactly how she remembered. Until a reporter's question cut through the background noise. Mr. Kane, how do you respond to claims that the investigation into Dr. Nadia Ren's death was mishandled? For the first time, she saw him falter. A fraction of a breath. A shadow across his face. I've said everything I can about that tragedy, he said finally. It was a terrible accident. An accident. The same word his lawyers had used. The word that had buried her. Marin closed her laptop. Her reflection on the dark screen looked like someone she didn't know. She paid, left, and walked out into the wind. That evening, she took Arya to the beach. It was a habit on nights when she couldn't sleep, watching the tide come in, counting the boats on the horizon until her heartbeat matched the waves. Arya ran ahead, chasing her own laughter, leaving little footprints that the water quickly devoured. Marin stared at the horizon. Somewhere out there, across the stretch of dark water, was McKeary Island. She whispered, "What do you want from me?" The sea didn't answer. It just breathed. Later, as she carried Arya back inside, she noticed the blinking red light on her answering machine. One new message. Her hands were still damp from the sea when she pressed play. "Dr. Vale," a woman's voice said, crisp and businesslike. "This is Lena Chaudhary from the McKeary Foundation. Mr. Kane requests your expertise on a coral regeneration project. You come highly recommended. We can arrange travel from Port Coral tomorrow morning. Please confirm." Marin froze. Her first thought, they found me. Her second, why would he ask for me by my new name? Because he shouldn't know it. She sat down, pressing a hand to her temple. The air in the house felt thinner, heavier. Outside, Thunder rumbled again. Arya stirred in her sleep, murmuring something about waves. Marin stared at the phone. The message repeated softly in the background, the voice smooth, practiced, too calm. Mr. Kane requests your expertise. If it wasn't him, if it was someone pretending to be him, then whoever had left the shell was closer than she thought. She picked up the seashell again from the drawer, tracing its sharp edge with her thumb until it drew a thin bead of blood. The ocean outside hissed, as if listening. The boat to Makiri rocked gently against the dock, its white hull gleaming like a blade under the morning sun. Marin stood there for a long time, her suitcase by her feet, a borrowed sun hat tugged low to hide her face. The sensible thing would have been to ignore the message. Delete it, change your number, move again, disappear deeper. But the handwriting on that shell, the one phrase she couldn't stop hearing, "I didn't push you," had rooted itself inside her. If it truly was Elias, then he hadn't forgotten. And if it wasn't him, then someone else was writing her story for her. Either way, she needed to see the author. Lydia had argued for hours the night before. "He's dangerous, Nadia. You said it yourself. Why go back?" Marin had packed in silence, folding Arya's clothes first, even though she wasn't taking her. "I'm not going back for him," she'd said finally. "I'm going back for the truth." Now, standing on the dock, she repeated that line like armor. When the ferry horn sounded, she stepped aboard. The ride took 2 hours. The closer Makiri grew, the heavier the air became, humid, perfumed with salt and rain and memory. The cliffs rose from the water like the spines of something ancient, sharp and waiting. Marin's hands gripped the railing as the island came into view. The last time she'd seen this horizon, she'd been falling. Makiri had changed. The once quiet island was now split in two, the southern side humming with cranes, trucks, and the gleaming curve of the new Makiri Oceanic Research Center, and the northern cliff sealed off with warning signs, unstable terrain. No access. Her driver met her at the pier. "Dr. Vale?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." He smiled, polite but distant. "Mr. Kane's expecting you." The sound of his name sent a current through her. They wound along the coastal road until the mansion came into view. Glass, steel, and silence perched on the edge of the same cliffs where her life had ended once. The driver stopped at the gate. "He said to bring you straight up." Marin's pulse fluttered. Her palms were damp. Inside, the house was all glass and white stone, reflecting the sea. The faint hum of electricity filled the air, security systems, surveillance, control perfection. And then she saw him. Elias Kane stood at the far end of the terrace, sunlight in his hair, the wind tugging at his linen shirt. For a heartbeat, time fractured. 5 years vanished. He turned and froze. "Nadia." The way he said her name wasn't anger. It was disbelief. A ghost seeing a ghost. Her throat tightened. "It's Dr. Vale now." He took a slow step forward. His eyes searched her face, as if trying to decide whether she was real. "I saw your body," he said quietly. "You saw what you needed to see." Silence stretched between them, heavy as the sea below. Finally, Elias spoke, voice low. "Who sent you here?" Marin blinked. "You did." He frowned. "No, I didn't." Her pulse stuttered. "Then who did?" Before he could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway, slow, deliberate, heels clicking against marble. A woman's voice floated out, smooth as silk. "Isn't this interesting?" she said. "The dead do come home." Marin turned. Standing there was Lena Chaudhary, the woman who'd left the message on her machine. And in her hand, she held a folder embossed with the Makiri Foundation crest. Elias's jaw tightened. "Lena, what is this?" Lena smiled, the kind of smile that knew exactly how much power it carried. "A reunion, apparently." Marin's stomach knotted. Because the look in Lena's eyes wasn't surprise. It was satisfaction. As if this, Marin standing here, alive, exposed, was exactly what she'd been waiting for. The silence that followed could have sliced through glass. Rain began to mist against the wide terrace windows, the sea a dull gray pulse below. Lena stepped closer, her heels soft against the marble. "You're a difficult woman to find, Dr. Ren." Marin forced her shoulders straight. "It's Vale." Elias looked between them, confusion threading through his composure. You two know each other? Lena tilted her head. Not formally. But your fiancé's disappearance was quite instructive for me. The air between them rippled. Elias's voice hardened. You work for me, Lena. Explain yourself. I did, she said. Until recently. Marin caught the shift in Elias's stance, barely visible, but real. A man preparing for impact. Lena reached into her folder and pulled out a photo, old, grainy, water-stained. She placed it on the glass table between them. It was the investigation photo. The one taken 5 years ago. A woman's body on the rocks, face turned away, hair tangled in seaweed. Nadia Ren's body. Marin's breath snagged. She'd never seen the image before. Lena's tone stayed calm, almost academic. It's amazing what people are willing to believe when they're given the right evidence. The police never questioned it. Not after Mr. Kane made his statement. Elias turned sharply. My statement was about an accident. An accident, Lena interrupted, her eyes glinting, that conveniently removed a whistleblower from your company's biggest project. The words struck like a blade drawn in the dark. Marin's mind flared with memory, files, data logs, the night she discovered what the Foundation was hiding in its oceanic waste tests. How she'd gone to Elias for help. How his expression had turned from disbelief to rage. Stop, Elias said, his voice low, shaking. You're twisting. Am I? Lena's gaze slid toward Marin. She was going to expose the environmental violations under your name. Then she vanished. You claimed she fell. Convenient, wasn't it? Marin stepped forward, her voice sharp. You think he killed me? Lena smiled faintly. I think the truth drowned somewhere between you both. Outside, thunder rolled again. The storm was crawling back across the horizon. Elias turned to Marin. His eyes looked older now, tired. I never touched you, Nadia. I came looking, but the tide, his jaw clenched. They said they found you. I believed them. You signed the death certificate. I had to. The police. You watched me die. The words tore from her throat, raw, echoing off glass and stone. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lena exhaled softly, as if savoring the tension. You two have much to unbury. I'll give you privacy. She gathered her folder, but as she turned, she added, almost casually, by the way, Dr. Vale, someone's been asking about a little girl in Port Coral. Sweet child. Dark curls. Looks just like you. Marin's blood went cold. Lena smiled, slow and deliberate. If I were you, I'd make sure she's safe. And then she was gone, leaving the door open to the sound of rain. Elias's voice was rough. Who's she talking about? Marin didn't answer. Her pulse was racing too fast, too loud. She grabbed her bag, her mind already 10 steps ahead. Lydia, the school, Arya. Where are you going? Elias asked. Home, she said, already halfway to the door. Nadia, wait. She stopped, just long enough to look back. I'm not her anymore. Then she was gone. Outside, the rain poured harder, washing the island into a blur. Marin ran toward the waiting jeep, her breath shaking, her chest aching. The world she'd built was unraveling, one thread at a time. And somewhere out there, on another island, her daughter might already be in someone else's hands. The sky over Port Coral was bruised purple when Marin's ferry docked. She didn't wait for the deckhands to lower the ramp. She jumped. The slap of her shoes on the pier startled a flock of gulls into the air. Her phone had no signal. Storms did that here, so she drove. Headlights knifing through the fog, the old truck coughing on every hill, her fingers white around the wheel. At the first bend outside town, she saw the glow of Lydia's house. She didn't bother knocking. Lydia, she called, bursting through the door. The older woman appeared from the kitchen, dish towel still in hand, eyes wide. What happened? You look like you've seen. Where's Arya? In her room. Sleeping. Why? Marin's lungs collapsed with relief. She sagged against the doorway, pressing her forehead to the cool wood. Lydia came closer, studying her. You went back there, didn't you? Marin didn't answer. She walked down the hall and opened Arya's door. The little girl was curled up on her bed, hair spread across the pillow, turtle plush tucked under one arm. Safe. Breathing. Marin sank into the chair by the window and watched her for a long time. When dawn broke, the world felt too quiet. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled like rain and metal. She made coffee, sat at Lydia's kitchen table, and told her everything: Lena, the photograph, the message, Elias's denial. Lydia listened in silence, her expression unreadable. When Marin finished, Lydia poured her more coffee and said softly, "If someone knows about Arya, you can't stay here. I'm not running again. You don't have a choice. Whoever's playing this game, Lena, Elias, whoever, they know how to find you now." Marin stared into her cup. The reflection there looked like a stranger's again. "Then I'll find them first." By mid-morning, she was back at the school. The hallways smelled of chalk and sunscreen. Parents were picking up their children early because of the storm warning. On her desk sat another envelope. No postage. No handwriting. Her pulse jumped. She opened it. Inside, a photo. Taken from outside Lydia's house. Through the window. Arya sleeping. Underneath, a note in the same sharp handwriting as before. "Truth has a price." Marin's vision blurred. The photo slipped from her hand. She scanned the parking lot outside. Nothing but the shimmer of heat rising off the wet pavement. But somewhere she knew someone was watching. That night, she packed. Lydia tried to stop her again, but Marin's eyes were already somewhere else, focused, cold. "Where are you going?" Lydia asked. "To end this. You can't take Arya back there." "I won't." Marin's voice softened. "But I can't protect her from a distance either. Whoever sent those notes is on that island, Lydia. Everything leads back there." Lydia's hand trembled slightly as she touched Marin's arm. "You sound just like him." Marin looked up. "Like who?" "Elias. The night before you disappeared." Marin froze. "You spoke to him?" Lydia nodded slowly. "He came here. Hours after you fell. Said you'd called him. Said you'd found something that could ruin him. Then he left for the cliffs." Marin's throat went dry. She'd never called him that night. So who had? By morning, she'd made her decision. She left Arya with Lydia, pressed a kiss to her forehead, whispered a promise she wasn't sure she could keep, and boarded the first boat back to Makiri. As the island rose again from the mist, she whispered to herself, "This time, I'm not running." At the pier, a car was waiting for her. Not the same driver as before. This one, a man she didn't recognize, smiled faintly when she climbed in. "Dr. Vale," he said, pulling away from the dock. "Mr. Kane's expecting you." Her chest tightened. But something in the man's eyes, calm, dark, too familiar, made her stomach turn. Because she had seen those eyes once before. In a photograph. Next to Lena. The car climbed the serpentine road that wrapped around Makiri's cliffs, the sea a sheet of molten silver below. The driver kept his eyes forward, hands steady on the wheel, expression unreadable. Marin's fingers twitched against her knees. She knew better than to ask questions now. The wrong word might turn this ride into a cage. The glass mansion came into view again, its reflection of sky and water blurring together, too perfect, too clean. But now in the daylight, she saw what she'd missed before: cameras tucked into corners of the driveway, drones hovering low over the gardens, and security gates that hummed faintly when the car passed through. The driver parked. "Mr. Kane's inside." Marin stepped out slowly. The air smelled of salt and ozone. Inside, the house was too still, no staff, no movement, only the hum of servers and the slow drip of rain from the terrace roof. "Elias," she called. No answer. She moved deeper, every sound magnified, the scrape of her shoe, the soft creak of glass under her hand as she steadied herself. In the central atrium, the light shifted. Something moved above her, on the mezzanine. She turned sharply. Elias stood there, leaning against the railing, eyes shadowed. He looked tired, older, as if the years had carved him hollow. "You came back." "Someone sent me a car," she said evenly. "Was it you?" He frowned. "No. I've been trying to reach you since you left." Marin's pulse quickened. "Then who brought me here?" Before he could answer, The overhead lights flickered, once, twice, then cut out completely. The house plunged into darkness. A low hum filled the space, rising from the floor, an electrical current powering something she couldn't see. Then the screens lining the far wall lit up. Security footage. Dozens of feeds. Each one showing a different angle of the island. Docks, cliffs, the research center, the mansion gates. And one camera focused inside a dim room lined with tanks and cables. In the center of that feed, Lydia, bound to a chair. Marin's breath caught. Elias swore under his breath. "Where is that?" The speakers crackled. Lena's voice filled the room. Calm. Cold. "Welcome home, both of you." The screens shifted again. Lena appeared, standing inside the research lab, wearing a white coat. Behind her, the tanks glowed with faint blue light. "You wanted the truth, Dr. Ren." "So did I. Let's finish what we started." Elias's jaw locked. "Lena, release her." "You first," Lena said. "Bring the data you buried. The original ocean toxicity results. The ones you let disappear the night Nadia fell." Marin's head snapped toward him. "What data?" He hesitated, just a fraction. Lena's voice sharpened. "Ah. So she never knew." The screens blinked again, one showing a folder marked Project Cerulean. 5 years ago, Lena continued, you both discovered the Foundation's deep-sea tests were poisoning coral reefs across the Pacific. But only one of you wanted to tell the world. Marin's voice was barely a whisper. "Me." "And one of you," Lena said, her gaze burning through the lens, decided the world wasn't ready. Marin turned to Elias. "Tell me she's lying." Elias's silence was the longest second of her life. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "It wasn't supposed to go that far. We were weeks from finding a solution. I just needed time. You covered it up. I tried to protect you." Her laugh broke out sharp and bitter. "By throwing me off a cliff." His eyes darkened. "I didn't push you, Nadia." Lena's voice cut in again, quiet, almost tender. "No, but I did." The room went dead still. Elias's face drained of color. Marin's knees nearly gave out. Lena smiled faintly on the screen. "Don't look so shocked. He built the empire. You found the flaw. I simply cleaned up the equation." The monitors flickered once more, and then switched to another live feed. This time, it wasn't Lydia. It was Arya. Asleep on a cot, somewhere underground. "The child is a remarkable mirror, Nadia," Lena said. "And now you'll decide what your legacy really means. Truth or survival." The feed went black. Marin staggered backward, her breath coming fast. Elias moved toward her, reaching out, but she pulled away. "Don't touch me," she whispered. Outside, lightning split the horizon, reflecting off the glass walls like a cage of light. The island felt alive now, humming, breathing, waiting. And for the first time, Marin understood. This was never about revenge. It was about possession. The storm had swallowed Makiri whole. Rain hammered the mansion's glass walls, and thunder rolled through the sea caves beneath it like something alive. Marin stood beside Elias, both faces pale in the ghost-blue glow of the monitors. The feed of Arya had gone black, but the image of her daughter asleep on that cot was seared into her skull. "She has her in the research wing," Elias said. His voice was quiet, focused, the way it used to be when he solved impossible equations at 3 a.m., that's half a mile down the coast. Marin's voice was flat. "How do you know?" "Because I built it." They left through the service tunnel beneath the house. The passage smelled of rust and brine, the hum of generators vibrating through the walls. Marin moved fast, barefoot, the flashlight beam cutting through the dark. "Lena's been planning this for years," Elias said behind her. "She knew about Cerulean before you did. I thought she was cleaning the data. She was copying it." "Stop explaining," Marin said. "Start leading." He fell silent. When they reached the end of the tunnel, the metal door opened into the cliffs, salt wind screaming through, waves exploding against rock. The path down was narrow, carved into the stone. Marin glanced back once. The mansion glowed faintly behind them, a glass ghost on the hill. "Go," Elias said. The research facility sat at the edge of the sea, half buried into the cliffside. Its walls were slick with condensation, its windows dark. Inside, the power still ran, emergency lights pulsing red along the corridors. The sound of pumps, valves, and rushing water filled the air. Marin's shoes squeaked on the metal grates. Her breath came shallow. At a sealed door marked biohazard, cerulean, she stopped. "Open it," she said. Elias swiped his card. The door hissed open, releasing a gust of cold, chemical air. Rows of tanks lined the room, tall glass cylinders glowing with blue bioluminescence. Inside them, coral samples pulsed faintly, breathing like creatures from another world. Marin whispered, "You said the project was about regeneration." "It was," he said, "until they found a faster way to clear the dead reefs, by dissolving them." She turned on him. "You knew. I was trying to stop it." She laughed once, sharp. "By killing me?" "I didn't kill you." His voice cracked through the room, echoing off the glass. "Lena did this. She needed you gone to own the data. She made it look like I—" A loudspeaker clicked on above them. "Such passion," Lena's voice purred. "Almost makes me miss you too." Marin spun toward the sound. "Where is she?" "Close," Lena said. "Closer than you think." A shadow moved behind the far tanks. The reflection fractured in the glass, her outline, her coat. Marin started forward, but Elias grabbed her wrist. The tanks. Too late. The alarm screamed as the first glass wall shattered, water exploding out in a violent surge. Marin hit the ground hard, lungs filling with cold. Elias dragged her up, the two of them slipping toward the emergency door as another tank burst behind them. Through the spray and noise, Lena's voice came again, calm and distant. "You both wanted the truth. So drown in it." They stumbled into another corridor, floodwater ankle-deep, lights flickering. Somewhere below, machinery groaned under pressure. Marin's vision blurred, her breath ragged. The cot area's room, where? "Lower level," Elias said. "Access tunnel under the observation deck." They ran. The floor tilted slightly downward, the air thick with salt and ozone. When they reached the final door, the control panel sparked. Locked. Elias ripped open the panel, wires spitting light. "Hold on." Marin's hand shook as she pressed her ear to the metal. A faint sound on the other side. A child's voice. "Mom." Her knees nearly gave out. "Arya." Elias twisted the last wire. The lock released with a sharp hiss. The door slid open. And standing inside the dim room, one hand resting on Arya's shoulder, was Lena. She smiled softly. "You made it." Arya blinked sleepily, confused, unharmed. "Mommy." Marin froze. Every muscle screamed to run to grab her child, but Lena raised a small device in her other hand, sleek metallic humming faintly. "Step closer," she said, "and the containment field drops. This whole wing floods in seconds." Behind her, the pipes groaned as if agreeing. Elias moved first. "Lena, stop this. You don't have to." She laughed quietly. "Don't lecture me, Elias. You built the monster, remember?" "Then let her go," Marin said. Lena tilted her head. "You always thought the ocean could forgive us. Let's test that theory." The device in her hand beeped once. Then the ceiling cracked. Water burst through. The ceiling split open with a roar. A torrent of seawater crashed through the lights, turning the lab into a whirl of blue chaos. Glass shattered. Alarms howled. Marin grabbed Arya first. The child's scream vanished under the water's roar. Elias lunged toward Lena, but the surge threw them all off their feet. The lights died. For a moment there was nothing but blackness, the crush of water, the taste of salt and blood. When Marin's head broke the surface, she was already fighting for the stairwell door. The waterline was climbing fast, dragging debris and broken glass with it. She shoved Arya into the crook of one arm, pushed off the wall, kicked toward the ladder. Behind her, Lena's voice surfaced, a strangled laugh swallowed by the flood. "You can't undo it, Nadia. The world deserves what you hid." Marin didn't look back. She climbed. Halfway up, Elias caught her ankle. His face appeared below, bleeding, coughing seawater. Go, he shouted. I'll shut the valves. No. If the pressure breaches, the whole cliff goes. Just go. Their eyes met, 5 years of betrayal and grief collapsing into one wordless second. Then he let go. She climbed until her hands bled. The water rose behind her like a pursuing heartbeat. Arya clung to her neck, whispering between sobs, "Mommy, the ocean's angry." "I know, baby," she gasped. "We're almost there." At the top of the stairwell, she forced the emergency hatch open with a rusted lever. Sunlight stabbed down, thin gray but real. She pushed Arya through, dragged herself out next, collapsing onto the slick concrete. The hatch slammed shut behind them as another explosion ripped through the facility below. The sea swallowed the entrance. They crawled to higher ground. The cliffs trembled underfoot, fissures opening where the lab had been. Marin looked back. A plume of water and glass shot into the sky, then vanished into a foaming crater. Elias was gone. For a long time, she didn't move. The storm eased. Rain turned to mist. Arya pressed her small hand against her mother's cheek. "Is he with the turtles now?" Marin nodded once, unable to speak. By nightfall, rescue boats dotted the coast. A cargo trawler picked them up, wrapped them in blankets, and carried them back toward the mainland. The crew spoke in low tones, but no one asked questions. When Port Coral appeared on the horizon, Marin held Arya close and finally let herself breathe. Lydia was waiting on the dock. Her face broke when she saw them. She caught Arya first, then Marin, then both together, wordless and shaking. Days later, the news broke. Makiri disaster, island facility collapses, files missing, CEO presumed dead. Lena's body was never found. Neither was Elias's. Marin didn't give interviews. She didn't correct the lies. She sold the house, packed what she could fit in a single duffel, and moved inland, far from the water. But sometimes, when the wind carried salt, she'd see Arya building towers of seashells in the yard, white spiral-cut shells just like the one that had appeared on her windshield 5 years ago. "Do you think they remember us, Mommy?" Arya asked once. Marin watched the shells glint under the sun. "The sea never forgets," she said softly. Then she smiled, tired but alive. A month later, a package arrived with no return address. Inside, a drive, waterproof casing scratched and burned. Marin plugged it in. A single folder appeared. Project Cerulean, restored. And a short message beneath it. For Arya. The ocean deserves another chance. The signature was a single letter. E. Marin sat back, eyes stinging, and listened to the sound of rain against the window, gentle, rhythmic, like breathing.